Hello and welcome, I'm Marumba, thank you for joining me. So, this is a tutorial type thing for Factorio on how to build an ideal furnace layout that will scale really well into the end game and not require a lot of rebuilding or redesigning your factory. So, what I've typically done is I'll usually build a factory and then find out later on that everything I've done worked for the time, but it didn't end up scaling well into the late game at all. So this is what I've kind of come up with, and hopefully in this video that's specifically about this, you'll be able to use the information to your benefit. So early on, you're going to have stone furnaces, steel furnaces, and then electric furnaces. The problem is that these two require fuel, this one does not, which is a good thing, but it messes up your input and output lines. And so the way that I like to try to think of this furnace lineup is that it's basically output focused. So instead of worrying about your input, you worry about the output side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a row of... There's basically two different methods, or two sizes to this layout. You can either do an 8 furnace setup or a 16 furnace setup. It really just comes down to your own personal, like how fast do you really want it to be. Let's do it as a 16. Alright, so that should be 16 furnaces long. Notice how we place one space in between. Now, normally, what I might be tempted to do is to put one right in the center for the outputs, and then have more furnaces right here. But instead, we're going to place 5 tiles in between the furnaces. So that's 3, 4, 5, and then again space them 2 apart. If you haven't seen this before, by the way, we are playing in free play mode, which is where you don't actually have a character. And you can move very, very quickly. You can interact with objects from anywhere. So for instance, if I'm over here, I'm not physically on the map, but I can break that belt over there, which is really quite fun. It's really good for doing lots of designs and stuff and trying to figure out the game. Now we do want to have our center output. However, in the early game you're not going to have access to fast transport belt, but you'll want to upgrade the center output to fast transport belt later on. But for now, we'll just do it with this. Now, from here, this part's very important. You need to do input track, and I'll explain why as we finish it. You could just use an inserter to put it directly onto the track, but that's going to cause problems for you when you try to make the upgrade to electric furnaces. The issue is that stone and steel furnaces are 2 by 2 tiles, while electric furnaces are 3 by 3. So what we're trying to do is building this from the beginning in a lineup that is going to allow us to have room to expand will help out significantly. So now we go input output on each one. Might have been easier if we had waited for some bots, but... Oops. Doing it manually a few times helps you get the hang of it. Also feels like in this free play mode you build much, much quicker. Now, what we're going to want to do is, again, you might be tempted to place electric poles in between the furnaces, but that's going to cause issues. What we actually want to do is we want to place the electric poles above, in the center, and then below. So we're going to place, it's going to be 4 electric poles, and then you can skip every other. So we don't need to put it again here, but we go here. Okay, so that'll power all of the inserters. Now we'll connect to power. So we've pretty much got the output side set up. Let's get the input side set up now. Oh, and I sure hope that I don't run out of transport belt. I might. Well, we can just build part of it and get some metal. Now, we will need splitter technology, so you're going to want to make... Oh, shoot, I've used them all up. Well, darn it. Let's go ahead and just smelt a tiny bit of ore so we can make a splitter. Okay. Now I'll clear that out because I want to use it. You know, I want to use the factory lineup. So we're going to use a splitter, and then in the beginning here, what we do want to do is we've got our raw iron coming in, we've got our coal coming in. So coal could be solid fuel, it could be wood, it could be whatever. It's your fuel line and your iron line. We are going to utilize side loading, so just have them come in directly, ideally a direct merger like that. And then you want to use fast transport belt on this tile here. What that'll do is help the right side of this track and the right side of this track to get a chance onto the track. Now, also ideally, you do want this merge point to be as close to the splitter as possible, because as soon as it enters the splitter, it's going to go 1-for-1 into both tracks, and you know, we're effectively merging a completely loaded transport belt on two sides onto a single one. So it's going to go from, you're going to lose half your speed. But the splitter has the possibility of handling two tracks at once, so if you can use this merge point here, then you won't see any slowdown. So I'll give you an example of what that's going to look like. Notice how once it gets to here, see how it's now spaced and we don't have a full load going through? On the other hand, let's say we put a bend here and make the merge point directly at the splitter. With our fast transport belt. We will need to do one more little thing to make sure that the corners don't slow down the transport. You lose some compression on corners, so we'll want to put fast transport belt here, 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 and here, as well as here, 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 and here. Those can be upgraded later. It's not a big issue if in the beginning you don't have that. But now if we make the merge point right here, notice how we're again taking two full tracks onto a fast transport belt, which has the capability of moving exactly twice as much as regular transport belt directly into a splitter. Now we'll have no issue and the compression will be the same. We're not losing any real compression here. Ideally, even going to an express belt would be better. But we should see quite a bit of iron being made now. And now, here's the great thing about this layout. This is pretty much it. We're almost done. What you can do now is, let's say that you upgrade and now you have access to steel furnaces. Just swap them in. It'll work perfectly. On the other hand, when you get to the point where you can make electric furnaces, all you do is remove the furnace, remove the inserter, place it from here to here in that 3x3 space, and then put a new inserter in that track. And you can perfectly upgrade it. Now, steel furnaces and electric furnaces function twice as fast as a stone furnace. So every time you make one of those upgrades, you're going to be doubling the throughput of that item. So you're going to want to upgrade this center track to fast transport belt once you have a long enough chain of furnaces that you can't support regular transport belt in the center column. That's going to happen when you have, alright, so 8 regular furnaces is going to do half of the regular transport belt. 16 regular furnaces will be a full regular transport belt. If you do 8 steel furnaces, it will fill 1 regular transport belt. If you do 16 steel furnaces or electric furnaces, you will need that fast transport belt in the center. And I'll demonstrate that by increasing the length here. Let's go back down to regular transport belt in the center. Let's wait till these are all functional. And let's see, where's the center point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 8. Center point here. Now, one of the issues we're running into at this point is that we actually don't have enough iron throughput to keep all the furnaces going. And so, again, what you're going to end up doing is, after you upgrade to electric furnaces, you can support the 16, right? What you'll end up doing is you'll disconnect the coal, and then just have tons of raw iron coming in on both sides. That'll give you 8 iron per second per side. Since you'll have 2 sides, it'll be 16, which can support the 16 furnaces through the center. So I actually can't demonstrate that, but you can see how if these are all functional, if we did have enough iron throughput right now, that 16 stone furnaces will fill 1 track. I just can't get the iron throughput to be high enough there. And I don't really think it's worth it. You know, you're not going to stay in the stone furnace phase for very long. You're going to end up going up to electric at some point fairly quickly. Now from here, if you needed more iron, don't extend the line. Don't make it longer. Just add another one. You know, you just make another whole furnace assembly below it. Maybe what I usually do is I'll have one that's 8 furnaces long for copper. You want one that's longer for iron because you need a lot more iron in the beginning. And then eventually you can just add a 3rd and a 4th and whatever. And then what you would do is you would make a series of splitters, assuming you have enough throughput over here of your raw material. You can just make a splitter, underground belt, and then just create that second one. And it doesn't have to be iron, of course. It could just be your copper furnace. And then when you merge, if you are going to like bring up a second furnace assembly to have it adjacent to the output of this one, make sure you leave 1 space between the last furnace and your track. So you want it to look like that. Again, if you have a second furnace assembly coming up from its output, leave that 1 space there, because remember, that space is reserved for your last furnace, the last electric furnace upgrade. It goes from top to bottom. So if you place it here, you're going to end up having to redesign the whole thing again and move everything over by 1, which is really annoying. But it's very simple then if you have your copper on 1 column or 1 row and then iron on the other, and you can just continue to expand it from there. So hopefully this helps, and I do look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please do check out anything else that you're interested in on the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.